Chapter 1. Prelude to Invasion. In the early morning hours of June 22, 1941, the skies over the Eastern Front were ablaze with German aircraft as Operation Barbarossa commenced. Adolf Hitler had long dreamed of conquering the Soviet Union and securing its vast resources. The invasion caught the Soviet Union by surprise, as the two nations had signed a non-aggression pact, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, just 2 years earlier. This sudden betrayal shocked the world and plunged Europe further into the depths of World War II. Chapter 2. Blitzkrieg unleashed the German army, led by Field Marshal Wilhelm von Rundstedt, and equipped with tanks, artillery, and a well-trained infantry, launched a lightning-fast Blitzkrieg, lightning war offensive. They quickly overwhelmed the Soviet border defenses and advanced deep into Soviet territory. German forces captured vast territories, including the Baltic states, Ukraine, and parts of Belarus, in a matter of weeks. The rapid advance seemed unstoppable, and it appeared that Hitler's dream of a swift victory was within reach. Chapter 3. Barbaric Tactics. As German forces pushed eastward, they engaged in brutal tactics. The Nazis implemented a ruthless policy known as the Commissar Order, which called for the summary execution of political officers and Soviet officials. This brutality foreshadowed the atrocities that would later occur during the Holocaust. The horrors of the Eastern Front escalated as civilian populations found themselves caught in the crossfire of a brutal war. Chapter 4. Siege of Leningrad. One of the most harrowing chapters of Operation Barbarossa was the 872-day siege of Leningrad, now St. Petersburg. German forces encircled the city, cutting it off from the rest of the world. The inhabitants of Leningrad endured severe hunger and cold, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians. Despite these dire conditions, the spirit of resilience and defiance in the city remained unbroken. Chapter 5. Battle of Moscow. As winter approached, the German advance began to slow. The Soviet Red Army, under the leadership of Georgy Zhukov, launched a massive counteroffensive in December 1941. The bitter winter weather and determined Soviet resistance stalled the German advance just outside Moscow. The Battle of Moscow marked a turning point in the Eastern Front as the Soviets pushed the Germans back. The iconic image of the Soviet flag flying over the Kremlin became a symbol of hope and resistance. Chapter 6. Stalingrad and the Turning Tide. In 1942, the Germans regrouped and launched an offensive towards Stalingrad. The Battle of Stalingrad became one of the deadliest battles in history, with heavy casualties on both sides. The Soviet Union under General Vasily Chuikov held on tenaciously, and in early 1943, they encircled and defeated the German Sixth Army. This victory marked a major turning point in the war and demonstrated the resilience of the Soviet people. Chapter 7. Retreat and Liberation. Following the Battle of Stalingrad, German forces faced a long and grueling retreat. The Soviet Red Army, now equipped with improved tactics and greater resources, pushed the Germans back through Eastern Europe. Liberated nations and resistance movements joined the fight against the Nazis. The liberation of Auschwitz and other concentration camps exposed the world to the full horror of the Holocaust. Chapter 8. The Red Army's March to Berlin. The Soviet Union continued its relentless advance, capturing key cities like Kiev and Warsaw. By 1944, the Red Army had reached the borders of Germany itself. The Battle of Berlin in 1945 was the final chapter of Operation Barbarossa. Soviet forces, led by Marshal Georgy Zhukov, encircled Berlin, leading to the eventual surrender of Nazi Germany on May 8, 1945. The fall of Berlin marked the end of World War II in Europe. Chapter 9. Legacy and Consequences. Operation Barbarossa had enormous consequences. It resulted in the deaths of millions of soldiers and civilians, and the Eastern Front became one of the most brutal theaters of World War II. The invasion ultimately hastened the downfall of Nazi Germany, but left a legacy of deep mistrust between the Soviet Union and the Western Allies, setting the stage for the Cold War. The post-war division of Europe and the emergence of the superpower rivalry profoundly shaped the second half of the 20th century. Operation Barbarossa remains a pivotal event in World War II, shaping the course of history in the 20th century and beyond. Its impact on the Eastern Front and the world at large serves as a somber reminder of the horrors of war and the importance of diplomacy and cooperation in preventing such catastrophic conflicts.